Have I ever told you the story of Crash Twin Sanity?
Oh God, my brains.
The year is 2012. John L. Beiswinger is setting up a lawsuit following a perceived copyright infringement against the Assassin's Creed franchise for its similarity to his book Link. Ubisoft is set to release the sequel to their borrowed from Crytek franchise Far Cry. The pre-release content for this game included a web series called Far Cry The Experience, which featured Christopher Mintz-Plasse, also known as McLovin, and the motherfucker in Kick-Ass franchise. He's now voicing a character in How to Train Your Dragon in the spin-off TV series. This is me legitimately putting my hand up saying I don't know how to pluralize the word series. He was also in the car crash movie 43, and in this series, published by the video game content company Machinima, a subsidiary of Warner Media, which is best known for starting the careers of Bruce Green, Lawrence Sontag, and James Willems of Funhouse, a company Warner would shut down anyway, as well as pocketing a shit ton of money from YouTubers and keeping a level of copyright on these growing creators' content in perpetuity that only let up when Machinima was dissolved in 2019. They were also investigated by the Federal Trade Commission in 2015. None of these terrible actions have ever really affected the Warner company as large, who, like Disney, are becoming a gaping maw of doom and constant consumption of all creative personnel. Throughout the 4-episode, Mintz-Plasse is coming face to face with Michael Mando's as Vas Montenegro. There's a lot of running and hiding from the pirates, leading to what has become the iconic image that also became the game's cover art of Chris being buried as Vas torments him. Vas also torments Chris and refers to him as Bambi with an E, which is just a fun fact I discovered and actually not really a reference to anything. It's just kind of odd. Why specifically an E? It's not on the movie. Does the E make it more feminine? Is that what he's doing? Is he being one of those alpha chads right now? So that was a tangent and a half, but here we are. So we are now at the release and my actual review of the game. For clarity though, I am playing the re-release for the Xbox One from 2018. That is because I bought the complete Far Cry 5, a game I may talk about again at some point, but who knows. I have already talked about it. Please have a look at the video I made against No Bullshit. He's terrible and really annoying. After sitting for what feels like an age, we get to see a bunch of dickheads living a party life to a licensed track that I can't use. So I might redo it so that we can get the vibe, but it's also YouTube safe. Who knows? It might be from a random video game. We are watching and thinking, wow, I may be hanging out with the most annoying rich kids, but this looks like light-hearted fun. The screen is retracted and it's shown that we are watching a video on our phone. The phone is in the hand of the reckless pirate man Vas Montenegro, played by Michael Mando. You know, like I said before. But he's also in other things. I mean, he's Nacho Varga in Better Call Saul. He's Mac Gargan in Spider-Man Homecoming. He was also Vic in Orphan Black. So Vass taunts the player and the other guy in the cell with him. This cellmate is Grant Brody, an army vet, played by Lane Edwards, best known for appearances in a number of DC properties like Smallville and Arrow, having an appearance in Riverdale and 2014's Godzilla. Grant is also the main player character's brother. After listening to Vass's self-indulgent rant, he walks away a little. Grant undoes his binds and frees you, pretends that like he's still bound. Another guard comes by and Grant does a takedown, and you do everything a good little brother of what I can only imagine is some kind of a nightmare killer would do, following him through the buildings and watching him silently killing an unaware guard. And he utters the phrase, "That's what they teach you in the army." I wondered how on earth this silent knife kill on a Hispanic gang member on a Caribbean island had to do with training to hit an Afghan school bus full of kids with a Predator drone, but who am I to correct him? Following through a little bit more, you wonder, why am I not playing as Grant? He's a badass. Ubisoft really flubbed it here. And as if by magic, a bullet hits Grant, and it's fatal, and it's through his neck. Vass has caught up with you, and as Grant bleeds out, we are told to run. Grant's wound magically despawns, and fearing the dark magic is afoot, we run, and run, and run. And in the escape, your prompts for some reason are bizarrely delayed, and so you lose the immersion as you seem to stumble and have to redo bits. In his escape, we get the flash of humanity in Jason, something that shows why we are playing as him and not Grant. As your first kill, the first enemy in this set piece, Jason is promptly sick. He is full of adrenaline and fear and cannot believe what he's just done, something that you don't see in action games and movies, and the only one I really remember that seems to think about doing this is 21 Jump Street, and that's played as a joke. Jason, in his desperation, tries to escape in literally any direction as Vass taunts him, shouting, "Run, Forrest, run!" because he's so quirky and makes fun references. So sorry you're gone, Diva. You would have loved Deadpool and the Wolverine. Upon reaching the river that he tries to cross, Jason fails and his vision goes black. If you want to try and avoid spoilers for this now 12 at least year old game, pop out here. We'll catch you up at the time on screen. I can't have spoiled it any more than a bunch of effortless gaming lists made it over the years, but ho hum, I hope you have a good time doing anything else. Upon his waking, Jason finds himself in a shelter that he does not recognize, with a man he also does not recognize who's giving him a tattoo. And as someone who has a few tattoos, I do not understand Jason's freak out here, because free tattoos and apparently no pain, that's the dream, my guy. Anyway, upon this freak out, we get to hear Jason's voice and find out he's voiced by Gianpaolo Venuccia. I hope I'm saying that correctly, who is best known for Officer Robert in Netflix's Lock and Key, Vincent in Good Witch, and Dave Farber in The Words. Upon yelling at his unplanned tattoo artist, Jason learns the man's name is Dennis Rogers, a Liberian.
Oh, I like your accent. Where you from?
I'm Liberian.
Oh, my bad. I like your accent. Where you from?
Who, after a couple of moves, has settled here on the Rook Islands and is now a full-time warrior of the Karat. I wonder what the salary is. Is that like when I tell myself I'm an entertainer because I do this? Dennis, HMRC are gonna want to know, dude. Or whatever the Liberian equivalent is. Dennis is played by Charles Malik Whitfield, known for his roles as Rodway in Behind Enemy Lines. Now, that is the second reference to this movie on this channel. I think, maybe the third, Wayne in Notorious, and Darius in The Bastard Sons. Dennis helps Jason up, catches him up on who is who on the island, like a tropical version of that Mean Girls cafeteria scene. Dennis also informs Jason he's a warrior, destined for greatness, so we have a whole Chosen One angle, and that helps him build himself up to take the revenge that Jason desperately wants. Following Dennis out of the village and trying to ignore the fact that he moves like he's in a DJ Khaled music video, Jason unscrambles the signal of a nearby radio tower, something that the player will need to do all the time to unlock the map if they wish to explore. He also gathers some plants and hunts some boars to make some medical items and a rucksack, respectively. Jason gains 2 skill points and pops one into the takedown, and the second is yours to choose. I'm going to be honest as well, by the way. According to everything I know, killing a boar is like 1,000 times harder than this. They are not bothered by grenades. Like, why did they not give him a Barrett 50 cal to take these guys down? Anyway, after this little escapade, Jason gets a call on his stolen phone, where the pirate on the other end is talking about a kidnapped American girl, who Jason assumes is Lisa, one of his friends from the copyright infringement video sequence, and Jason's girlfriend. So, with this in mind, the player's next task is to secure an outpost, something you will also be doing far, far too much in any Ubisoft titles after this. Dennis sends Jason to meet 2 of his Rakiat co-workers, and when these guys see Jason's sick ink, they're all like, "Brodenheim, that is bo-delicious. Tell me what you need me to do." Jason and the boys, his new doo-wop band name I would assume, take this outpost and find Lisa isn't there. Jason's discovery that an American girl is at Dr. Earnhardt's mansion then means that he has to travel there, and he learns that it's Daisy, another one of his friends, and was the girlfriend of his brother Grant. They're taking a bit of a break at the moment in their relationship. Daisy is played by Natalie Brown, known for her roles as the CDC reporter in Dawn of the Dead, Sophie Parker in the 2008 show Sophie, and Kelly Goodweather in The Strain. Jason gets to meet Dr. Alec Earnhardt, played by the late Martin Keevan, who is known for Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and Far Cry 3 was sadly his final project. Earnhardt is a weird guy, but seemingly genuine in his care for Daisy, partly because she seems to fill a hole left by his daughter Agnes, who fell from a 10th floor window at the age of 2, leading to his grief consuming him and basically becoming a drug dealer. He informs Jason that there's a mushroom needed to cure her Antarius toxicara, or plant stingy poison time, and Jace goes to go get it. On his return, Jason and his friends he is yet to find are given sanctuary here. It's a sweet decision. Jason lets Daisy know that Grant is not doing so great, and that he's going to save all their other friends. And we're just going to put it past us. Jason is next sent by Dennis to take down a pirate holdout on the beached ship, the Medusa. Upon gaining access, and let's just say, incapacitating the pirate.
Oh, frick!
Jason hears that the pirates intend to sell his friends and remaining brother Riley into slavery. And yes, it will become apparent that this is every kind of slavery. Jason heads to the PC and finds out that all of this information is from some ransom tapes Vass made. Before Jason can head straight to his next objective, he has to help out Dennis and the lads stop an attack on the Rakyat village by heading to the logging camp and destroying the pirates' weapons. Following that little sidetrack, we head to Sunset Cove. Thinking we are close and hearing Lisa's voice, we are tricked in a boat full of drugs and hearing a TV blaring a ransom video. Jason gets mad at this and how we are seeming to go nowhere, leaving him wide open to be captured by a hiding pirate. Upon waking up, Jason realizes he is with Lisa. What a lovely date! Except Vass is there, and he's threatening to burn the hotel they are in to the ground with both of them inside. In his taunting, Vass thinks a cruel twist of irony would be to put the lighter that sealed the pair of lovers' fate into Jason's shirt pocket and leaves. This will not be necessary later, I swear.
Foreshadowing is a literary device in which
Lisa is played by Mylene Din Robic and is best known for her roles as Beatrice Hamelin in 1902, Olivia Fawcett in The Listener, and the Canadian version of the Red Band Society as Dr. Vera Rosenbaum. Jason manages to get free and rescues Lisa, and the two run from Vass's men, eventually ending up in the cave beneath Earnhardt Bernhardt's place. An entrance to this cave as well was so difficult to find for me that I had to use a guide, so just a heads up, it's annoying. Once there, Lisa and Daisy catch up. Jason finds a power head for the motor to a boat, and suddenly life seems pretty good. We are currently a third through the story, just to let you know. With 2 rescues under his belt, Jason preps to see his mission finished. But to get this done, he needs more allies, so Jason meets up with Dennis's employer, or as he sees her, Warrior Goddess. I've been in some weird employment situations where the "we're all a family" thing gets played, but Denny, buddy, this seems unhealthy and I think you might need a union. His employer is Citra, played by Faye Kingsley, known for her roles as Professor Anders in Halo Wars 2, Faith in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and Nico in Devil May Cry 5. Citra asks Jason to drink a mystery drink, which, again, I think there are some labour relation issues here. The mystery drink causes Jason to trip out in a bizarre sequence, seeing a man in a white suit, a shanty town, and an Asian ceremonial knife. If I saw these dreams and told them to my therapist, I would be sent to Grippy Socks jail. However, it turns out that Citra wants that knife, and Dennis knows where the town is. Jason makes the trek to a town called Bad Town, which just feels like a rubbish Fallout fanfic name for a town. Honestly, guys, please do a little better. Once there, Jason heads to a nearby bar, plays some poker, and gets a little more intel. Also, to show the people this was a mechanic, because at this point in time, every game had to have poker in it. I mean, it made sense in New Vegas, sort of made sense in Red Dead Redemption, but now it kind of feels ham-fisted. This is my new scale, by the way, of how understandable is poker in your game, from New Vegas to Far Cry 3. Not helping this game's case is the fact that the cards will clip through the table in cutscenes, so that is not a good look. Upon winning a hand, Jason receives a compliment from the man in the white suit, and Jason stalks this man to his home. Not sure why this is the course of action, but entering the man's home, we have a small discussion about American patriotism, and Willis, the man in the white suit, played by Alain Goulem, known for his roles as Detective Mills in Separated at Birth, Samuel Smith in Assassin's Creed Rogue, and Lawrence Barrett in Deus Ex Human Revolution. After our little chat about the Stars and Stripes, bald eagles, and systematic destruction of anybody who's browner than an untoasted piece of white bread, while claiming democracy and freedom spreading across the globe, Willis hands us a flamethrower, and we are to head to this guy named Hoyt's wheat field to burn it all down. This seems just not okay. Having arrived at the fields, we get a moment that when the wheat fields are on fire, a dubstep cover of a reggae song comes on. And that's some Nixon-level racism there, man. Oh yeah, that's the spliff life, says Ubisoft upper management, who have never tried drugs, or I would assume probably only tried cocaine, but will force his assistant to take some so she's easier to assault. Once we've burned down all of the weed, Hoyt's boat seems to be getting away, so Jason blows it up and then heads back to Willis's comfortable abode. While playing through this mission, Willis, being a CIA agent, says that the jungle is chaos and that the synapses of your brain fade out and you forget who you are. That's in direct opposition to the Order of America and the American flag, which, again, holy shit, that's some weird racism going on there. Something that will not change or get any better as the campaign progresses. This, however, should not be taken as too much of a shock when we are talking about a group called the CIA that in our real world took part in, but are not limited to, the following.
The 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat to boost the profits of the United Fruit Company.
Training Osama bin Laden to give a big middle finger to the USSR.
The Bay of Pigs invasion that failed to assassinate Fidel Castro and nearly caused World War III through the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Compromised every agent they had in Iran during Desert Storm because of a goof.
Operation Condor. Operation Chaos.
Project Mockingbird.
Operation Paperclip.
Lying to Congress multiple times.
Trafficking drugs into underprivileged and mainly off-color neighborhoods.
And the 2011 Syrian Civil War.
So yeah, maybe they're not the civilized group they claim to be. On our exit from Willis's let's just call it a bachelor pad, we are sent to Beras Town, and we are to recover a transportation manifest that may or may not contain the whereabouts of our friend Oliver from that Hoyt fella I mentioned earlier. Boy, I wonder if he'll be important later and not dead on the boat that we shot earlier.
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
Arriving at the new town, Jason is now having to rescue a Rook Islander called Rongo, who has been threatened by a death squad who've been hired by Hoyt. Whoa, that was fast. He's back on it. Oh, brilliant. Upon the rescue, Jason gets the manifest, escapes the town, and it's assumed but not confirmed that Rongo also left. Can't imagine there was much reason to stick around, but I don't know you, dude. I probably wouldn't, but you might want to. During this quest, of the 3 people that Hoyt demands run into the minefield, 2 of them are the same person for some reason. What's with that, Ubisoft? Are we too slim on character models and effort that the main story quest can't have 3 different characters? And I have to accept that maybe Hoyt is cloning his victims for his torture porn displays? Oh, actually, no, that does sound like something that would happen in this game. Anywho, I also have to add that rescuing Rongo is a nightmare and is an exercise in futility. He runs directly into enemy fire constantly and wonders why he's having a lead-based enema. On his return from Beras Town, Jason is sent on Operation Saving Private Oliver. This deep cover operation means that Jason will be waiting at the handover point where Oliver is being transferred and snipes away at all the pirates as Oliver makes a getaway. This option is really boring as it could have been a social stealth experience, maybe taking a uniform and setting yourself up as the commander who is moving Oliver, maybe even have some of the Rakyat also disguised and have a chase when the disguise drops. But as you'll see later, the social stealth elements in these games are not great. Anyway, enough writing about a better experience that will never come, as people still praise this game far beyond what it deserves. Jason and Oliver hijack a boat and head to the cave under Dr. Earnhardt's place. Once here, everyone gets to recuperating and reminiscing about the times before this hellish island, all except Jason, that is, who is immediately ready to go to Bad Town and meet the next of our cast of characters. As Jason heads over to the town, I thought I would let you know what I think of Oliver. Oliver Joshua Carswell is a wealthy drug enthusiast and friend of Jason in his gang of hipster nepo babies. At this time, he's 23 and played by Christian Hodko, who is best known for projects such as The Woods Are Still Green, Anywhere But Here, and Identités. So mainly Canadian, and his French obviously peeks through in certain roles. Oliver is written as a joke stoner who has no other personality than lol, doing drugs is fun, man. And after a while, that's just painful to engage with for a prolonged amount of time. Anyway, I'm fairly sure Jason's made it by now, so we'll check back in, shall we? Yep, he made it. And he's now chatting to a totally normal guy. He's Bambi Hughes, Buck to his friend, and he's a hitman. No, not like the titular John Hitman of the Hitman franchise, but a different one. Also, I'm fairly sure that this is not a reference to the videos on machinima.com that I mentioned earlier, but Buck is keeping hold of Jason's buddy, Keith. If Jason wants Keith back, however, he's got to barter, and because he has a charisma stat of -2, the only thing Jason can offer is that special knife that Citra wants. Even Lumpy in Fallout 76 could have haggled him down to a broken toaster or something, and he's God's mistake. To find the knife, Jason has to make his way to a boat called the Nostalgia, which I only knew to do because the screen told me to, as the audio of this cutscene is so poorly balanced you can barely hear his voice over the music playing. Once on the ship, and just when he thought that he was getting somewhere, inexplicably being able to hack a computer on a boat that looks like it's not seen a crew since the 90s, this Mary Sue finds an ancient compass instead of the knife he's looking for. That's fine though. If Monkey Island is anything to go by, this is totally fine and... Oh no. Why is there an alarm? And the boat is getting ready to self-destruct. This isn't what Guybrush Threepwood had to deal with. Upon escaping the nostalgia, which is annoying as hell because the brightness levels are garbage, and then when you start to drown you see even less, a helpful decision by the game, and the ship unceremoniously explodes, Jason has a little catch up with Buck. After a little chin wag with the sex trafficking psychopath, or as I like to call them, Ubisoft executives, we are sent to a Japanese World War II bunker, which apparently leads to ancient Chinese ruins. Something that I will say sounds a little racist. It just gives that jam a bunch of things that sound vaguely Asian together on a set of islands that seem to have no consistent geography or demographics. Especially as, to me, when I first played the game, I was under the impression they were in the Caribbean. Jason then goes to solve the puzzle of the ruins, discovering another piece of ancient compass, and still missing the knife. Discussing this failure with Buck, he points us to the mines in which we need to find the third piece of the compass by dodging a pirate camp, entering a mystical room, and taking an old elevator. And you'll never guess what happens when we get the compass piece. If you had money on the collapse of the temple, where you have to run for your life, you get a Milky Bar that was left in a hot car out for an afternoon. Treat yourself, you little genius. Reaching normal life and chatting with the Isaac Butterworth impersonator again, which leads us headed to a tomb with an assumption that we actually know where this knife is. For once we get it right, because I could not have taken another diversion. I have to be honest, it has a little bit of an Indiana Jones experience where you have to open the fake sarcophagus, then find the real one, dodge traps. It could have had way more of the adventure be about this and been more exciting and interesting, but that would have meant it would have been built entirely differently and would have been built around exploration rather than combat and a rich white man being able to manifest destiny his way across some islands. Moving into the final third, we head back to Buck with our new knife that we can trade for our friend Keith's life. Jason comes to the bargaining table and offers the trade. Buck turns it down and now wants both of the men to stay with. What I am to talk about with this guy is going to get a little dark, and so I thought I would say that for everyone who might be a little bit sensitive to talk around assault and sexual violence, you might want to skip ahead a wee bit. I will put the time on screen. Buck blocks the men's path and remarks that this whole experience has been some fucked up foreplay, or how he would like to show his appreciation like a man should, while cupping his genitals. The most damning is that he threatens to rape and kill the two men, with the offer of, "I'll take you in bloody if you like. I like my meat rare." There may be a mercy that he may not do these activities in that order, as highlighted by his comment of, "Here, you eat what you kill," which may hint at cannibalism and or necrophilia. All of these horrendous things being traits of his potential inspiration of the sexual sadism of a deer in mating season, Buck from Kill Bill, who is also a rapist, Bennett the Australian knife-obsessed sadist from Commando, the violent amorousness of rabbits also during mating season, and apparently on his wiki page he is a BDSM fetishist by wearing a cock ring around his neck, which is also a statement of gay men in the 1990s, and given that Buck is the only open non-hetero person in the game, also highlights a gross idea of sexual violence from LGBT people, something Ubisoft seem to have a penchant for. With Buck not bending to pressure to let the two men leave, it's time for a fight. The two, this time being Jason and Buck, transport to a magical realm and fight it out, with Jason coming out victorious. I don't know what caused the pocket dimension, and I suppose we just have to roll with it now, because that's just a thing that'll happen. With Buck dead or dying, we return to the real world and get Keith back to the group under Earnhardt's place, where Keith drops some heavy news. Jason's brother Riley is dead, allegedly being shot while trying to escape captivity. I think we should leave Jason with this for a second and talk about how this news hit me as I played this section and how the actors portrayed this horrible scenario. So it's quite clear that Buck has been sexually assaulting Keith the entire time that we/Jason have been doing our little adventure and fetching a load of shit for him over the past week or so. This is awful. It is just a depravity you cannot get your head around, and the reason it hits so hard and makes you sick to your stomach is the way it's portrayed so well by the two actors. Julian Casey portrays Buck in such a gross and insidious way, and because this man holds all the cards, there is nothing you can do but show him the respect he demands of you. This constant snide addition of admittance of such horrible acts and genuine enjoyment from it, all going on while the game seems to simp for him, calling him a charming and masculine, and an accent that implies that it's nowhere near as serious as it is, with the fact that we find Australians almost innately funny. This constant underhanded awfulness is what makes this performance, and with a guy known for Samuel Adams, Francois Thomas Germain, Liam O'Brien, and Flavius from the Assassin's Creed franchise, Uncle Foggy Jack from We Happy Few, as well as Nicholas Crispin in Watch Dogs, and Simon Whittaker in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, who has just nailed how really good and creepy it is. Probably why we don't cast many Australians as sex offenders in movies, or why we were just so delayed in spotting Rolf Harris. The portrayal of this is done in such a way where Buck's victim Keith also has an amazing piece of characterization. Keith is played by James A. Woods, not the guy from White House Down, a different guy who isn't Twitter-brained, I assume. James has also been seen in such roles as RJ Gale in Far Cry 4, which is a little weird given that Kirat is in the Himalayas and James is, well, super white, but we will see that in a number of projects as I'm covering. A lot of white actors really love playing Asian people. He was also put onto a project with Julian Casey again, where he plays Viktor Marchenko in Deus Ex Human Revolution. Oh, and he was in Independence Day Resurgence as Lieutenant Ritter. James's performance as Keith, making the delivery of the news that Riley is dead, is so deadpan. It's emotionless and fits this really interesting, clearly trying to rush the group off the island sentiment, which portrays how much he desperately wants to be as far away from these islands that remind him of his trauma. It's something really well put together in these scenes that, along with Buck, I really struggle to see is Ubisoft doing this deliberately. I instead want to give credit to the actors, especially when I look at it as the same team who allegedly that wrote Vars. And with that, I do not see them getting the subtlety without some support. Jumping back to Jason, we are given a new mission to take Citra the knife. Now with Aussie blood on it, not sure if that makes it better. Maybe it does. And she seems really appreciative. I would have preferred flowers, but maybe I'm just a different type of girl. And then, in response, she tells Jason a story of a warrior who defeats a giant, which is neat. I mean, I don't normally get to tell people about my Skyrim stories, so clearly I'm not hot enough. Putting my jealousy aside, I wanted to point out that this is a major exposition dump. It takes a long time to get through and really does not add to the primary story. We have essentially been introduced to a second entire plot about being this island warrior to set up a secondary ending that thematically, without this section where you just have to sit and listen, would not have fit the game at all and would have come across like a golf club to Andrew Ryan's right ear canal. Once the story time is over, we are sent to rescue some Rakyat warriors. Then, having reached the warriors, Jason is given some explosives, a sniper rifle, and asked to support the ambush of an incoming convoy. Explosives placed on the fuel truck, the tower climbed, and the detonator primed, the warriors waited. And on cue, unleash hell on what they think are Vars's pirates and privateers. But these guys are better stocked and more organised. They've kicked the hornet's nest and are in for a world of hurt now. Vas knocks Jason out again, and at this point, the amount of blunt force trauma to the skull has to be giving Jason some kind of brain hemorrhage at this point. While Jason sleeps this off, I wanted to mention that at this point, the game gave me a bizarre glitch where the crafted upgrades that I had just made disappeared from my inventory entirely, as the game just didn't want me to have them for some reason. So on top of being a partly unnecessary system, it just sometimes does not work at all. Coming to, we see that Vas has been trying to drown Jason. In this drowning attempt scene, we see the famous definition of insanity speech, something I have heard gamers use to sound smart so many times that when I finally did hear it in this game, I wanted to lobotomize myself with a pencil. It's not big, it's not clever, it's not cool. Why on God's green earth do people repeat this one so much? Do you think you look like this man? Do you think you have his charisma? You ended up becoming Menonists in 2014. I know who you are. Escaping a watery grave and driven by revenge, Jason pursues the APC the pirates have taken to a nearby fishing village. Hijacking a nearby helicopter, Brody Boy tries to make an escape or have some kind of combat advantage. It's not clear. Sadly, the plans are not divulged as Vas hits the helicopter with an RPG, swatting it out the sky. And as the dust settles, Vas emerges to make this personal, pressing the gun to Jason's chest and firing. Jason wakes up from what should be a fatal shot under a pile of corpses, a mass grave in celebration of Jason's demise. Realizing his safety seemingly came from that lighter that Vas stuffed in his pocket however many hours ago, the Pirate King has now made his own worst enemy. Jason vows to bury Vas and Hoyt for this nightmare he's endured, gathers his equipment, and heads for his vengeance. Following the only lead he has, Jason returns to Citra at her temple, and she, like any normal friend, for some reason drugs him and causes him to trip out. During his trip, Jason sees some really weird things that seem to portray him and Vas as two sides of the same coin. A cool metaphor, but then we see Citra having sex with both of them, so I feel like writing a complex metaphor is probably best done without one hand disappearing below the desk, guys. Jason comes around from the spirit realm adventure and realizes that Citra is having sex with him. Sorry, I meant to say sexually assaulting someone who is under the influence. So her entire lore dump here is a distraction to someone as they become intoxicated to assault them. Similar to how a Ubisoft exec would talk to you about the interesting crossovers in Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed while surreptitiously putting something in your drink. Or so I'm told. Once he's repressed all the events that just happened like a healthy soul, Jason decries to the Rakyat who just sat there and watched this occur that he will lead them to victory. Honestly, these guys need a fucking union. These are terrible co-workers, Jason. You've thrown your hat in with the wrong lot. Two things that bug me are that the other warriors clearly failed to take care of Jason when he needed them. Not a good group of friends. And two, this feels weird and white savior themed, with the fact that the one white guy is the only one good enough to lead this group of indigenous warriors. Ubisoft Don't Be Racist challenge. Difficulty impossible, I assume? With his new station as General of the Rakyat, Jason has a personal assassination mission. Travelling to the island Vas has made his compound. Upon his arrival, Jason learns that the pirates are partying to celebrate his apparent demise, and with the element of surprise on his side, infiltrates the compound. Making his way through, Vas appears on some TVs and says he knew Jason was still alive because, like Thrawn and a number of other poorly written bad guys before him, Vas knows things but acts like he doesn't to play 14D chess when there's just a straightforward way that could make infinitely more sense. The building Jason is in ignites and he has to make another desperate escape. I should have made a counter for these. And he ends up on the roof. The two Him and Vas tussle for a little while Vas gives an important insight into everything that's been going on. He is Citra's brother. The family have been playing both sides of the conflict, and their weird warrior lineage was always going to win. But not unlike Sheev Palpatine, there's parts of this story that add way, way more questions. Like, why is it delivered upon us almost immediately after having a vision of Vas having sex with Citra in the dream world? I have a feeling I understand what the Ubisoft writers' Pornhub history looks like. What in the stepsis world are we working with here? Jason is stabbed by Vas. There's a dream state. Vas is shot by Jason. There's another dream world. And Jason fights off Vas clones, then stabbing the real Vas and ending this revenge story where it makes sense. Jason falls asleep and wakes up in Citra's temple. And no, I'm not meaning that as a euphemism. Thank God. Citra promises warrior status to Jason. He pops by his friends and tells them he's staying on the island and that they should take the boat that they have to the US. After saying the most callous and permanent goodbye, Jason calls Willis and asks for a hand taking down Hoyt. Willis just so happens to be passing by the other island Hoyt is on, so he offers a lift in exchange for protection while he fixes his plane. That sounds easy enough, and I hope nothing painfully awful will happen, and that the cover from the pirates will be sufficient, and the game deleting my crafting items won't be made even more infuriating in this segment due to the lack of weapon options. Oh, never mind. Upon the plane taking off and getting above the island, Willis informs Brody that he's getting out of Dodge and not returning. You're on your own from this point as far as the CIA are concerned, because they do this all the time. Hire a terrorist group to get rid of the terrorist group that I funded, to get rid of the terrorist group that I funded, to get rid of the terrorist group that I funded, to get rid of the terrorist group I funded, to get rid of the terrorist group I funded. That's the history of the CIA. Arriving on South Island, as they call it in-game, I personally think we should have gotten a better name, but here we are. Jason finds some pirates, murders them, steals their truck, and looks for Willis's contact, Sam. He sounds like a really nice guy. Arriving in Thurston Town, Jason arrives at the Crazy Cock Bar. No idea why you would call it that, but you do you, Islander guy. I suppose the Peculiar Penis Pub was already taken.
Where everybody knows your name.
In the aforementioned watering hole, Jason chats to a guy, joins a private poker game where he tries to establish contact with this Sam character. Upon playing a hand or two, Sam will get up and walk out of the bar. Jason follows like a strange little puppy dog, and they discuss their moves against Hoyt. I also wanted to point out that when meeting Sam, he says, "I was promoted because I'm German, and they think I'm a bad guy." This is an obfuscation of the fact that he has an iron cross tattooed across his chest, and that's pretty fucking suspect. But then again, Elon Musk did a Nazi salute on the world stage, and everybody's just pretending like that wasn't the case. Hey! Scathing, current-ish events, comments, depending on when I actually get this out. Oh, these take forever. Sam here is played by Stephen Bogert, best known for his roles as Harold Carnes in American Psycho, Carl Cooper in The Umbrella Academy, Mr. Marsh in the 2017 It, and the Pentagon General Hastings in X-Men Apocalypse. A really good movie, by the way. Following Nazi Sam's advice, we travel to a dock and hired as a privateer. This mission requires you to hide from most of the guys in the area to get all the way to the bottom of where this specific privateer is. Something that bugged me, because it's not like he had a specific initiate member armor or anything, so like you really could have just nicked anyone's, but this is a plot contrivance that is never addressed. Once the uniform has been acquired, Jason heads to orientation and then heads off on a boat, reconvening with our Rommel fanboy as they come up with a plan to kill a trio of privateer captains who are planning to betray Hoyt and give the roll call of the traitors to Hoyt. Something that in one way makes sense, and in another makes me ask, why not join these guys together and make a movement to revolt? I mean, that way you have more allies and a house divided falls, right? Why would you kill the guys who you could be helping and even just help build up their assassination plot. Make it feel like Hoyt has no friends left. Just keep getting closer and closer to him. Don't address those guys. Go, hey, by the way, we'll deal with it later. And just wipe him out. This has bothered me so much I've gone off script. Hoyt is played by Steve Cumin. I'm going to call him that because that seems to be the easiest way to pronounce that. Also known for his roles as Colbert in Versailles, Dr. George Bowman and Dr. George Ridinger in Saving Hope, and Tony Baroni in Paradise Falls. In our attempt to get onto Hoyt's good side, we complete the following fun few little tasks, like disarming some bombs he had in his drug field, performing a hit for him on a guy named Stubbs. Does this make Far Cry 3 a prequel to Stubbs the Zombie, the Rebel Without a Pulse? Photographing a meeting, shoot a 4x4 with an RPG, get the roll sheet, jump off a bridge, and torture our brother Riley, who I knew was alive, and this makes Kevin's desperate attempt to flee to help his own crumbling mental health both sadder and way more selfish. A real payoff, and actually adds to that scene a great deal. After our little 80s compilation of making friends, Sam suggests we make a play for the island and try to bring Hoyt down now. And where do we hit him? First stop is a satellite communication dish. Jason kills the guards, blows through the bunker they are set up in, and plants bombs on the dish. Sam picks Jason up as they trigger the explosives, and a solid first step is complete. With comms completely decimated, where do we head next? The oil fields. How very 2012 for Hoyt to own oil fields and not have been invaded by the US at this point. I think it's because he's a white guy. Jason and Sam drive to the fuel depot with an armed car and destroy 4 important parts of the depot that Sam informs you of. Flee the explosion, drop Sam off at the fuel reserve maintenance building, grab a turret, and hold this position. Then finally, when Sam is done, pedal to the metal because otherwise you're gonna end up like a jerky person. This mission is beyond annoying, and it follows an annoying wave defense game. The issues it has are primarily shown with Sam having such a shit health bar that sneezing could give him torsion to death, and the driving away is janky as hell. Having escaped the madness of this last mission, the two return to Hoyt's compound, with the plan to an intention of assassinating the man. Sam discusses the hidden knife he has in his boot, and the two join Hoyt for a lovely game of poker. Because of course they do. It's pretty high stakes, as at the end of the first hand, Sam gets a knife in the neck. Following this, some privateers appear. Jason's luck seems to drop to that of a 13 pitch black cat on the Vitomatic Vigor meter, and in keeping with the situation of high stakes, Hoyt shows Jason that he inadvertently bet his own finger. Wait, loss of a finger? Jason? Whining entitled terrible people? Is this the plot of Heavy Rain? With his left hand in an owie state, Jason goes into some kind of dream fugue state and has a magic knife fight with Hoyt. Hoyt decides to taunt Jason by saying he's only in the sex slavery business and plans to sell Riley to a guy in Yemen who like him young. And I gotta be honest, Ubisoft, this is a little excessive and gross. This is like taunting people, saying, don't worry, we've never done this in real life, while putting up pictures of plans to, sexually assault people. I mean, the South Park games you publish are gross, man. And I know it's South Park, but the amount of sex offense jokes in that game, those two games, are so tremendously fucked up. Also, I get he's the bad guy, but does, everyone have to be into sex trafficking? If so, what are the odds they all happen to meet by accident? I feel like this is an underground support group we really need to start investigating. Upon killing Hoyt and leaving the dream world, Jason recalls Hoyt's plans for Riley, having made it just in time Jason now must murder his way through the compound to his little brother, who is going to be bundled onto a plane. Getting to Riley's holding cell in the airport, the brothers reunite. Jason fights to clear a path to the helicopter as Riley flies and he pours bullets out of the side like it's going out of style. This mission, as the boys fly with the Ride of the Valkyries playing, which is at least probably a reference to Apocalypse Now, where the helicopter is embodying the imperial destruction of a country it's in, is not the down-on-the-look rebels look that we wanted. With this in mind, suddenly this is a pair of wealthy American fuckboys opening fire on the people of an island who are tonally designed to be less advanced and more barbaric, especially when compared to Citra's order of warriors. So can we acknowledge the gross tones depicted here? Like, this is colonialism right now. Anyway, jumping back to the game's story, the brothers arrive at the home of Dr. Earnhardt, finding the home ransacked, their friends gone, and the good doctor looking, well, let's just say he's had better days. He lets the boys know that the Rakyat have kidnapped the rest of the Scooby Gang, and promptly Yoda's his way out of there without a chance to answer any more questions. The boys have a confusing trip to the temple and try to get some answers. As the boys travel, I would catch you up on who you've been hearing talking to you in this helicopter ride. This is Alex Harouche, known for his roles as Georges Fournier in the Murdoch Mysteries, Khufu in Assassin's Creed Origins, and Leo in Degrassi: The Next Generation. Upon their arrival, Jason and Riley are split up. Jason asks where the brother he just spent God knows how long trying to rescue him. How does Citra repay this? You'll remember this tactic. Drugging Jason, like a normal person does. Instead of waking up and being assaulted, this time Jason wakes up tied at the wrists in a stone room. She gets weird about his tattoos, acting like they have magical powers, and something I would really like to hear said about mine sometime, but I mean, what are you gonna say about a triceratops? What perks would I get for these? Honestly, I need you to let me know in the comments if you have any good ideas. I really, really want to know. Jason frees himself and follows Citra, who left the room. He goes up a magic dream path. There's a burning Lisa who grabs Jason and burns off his tattoo. Jason gets butterfingers and Lisa gets an ink monster face. Citra makes the knife blue and Jason wakes up from his weird trip threatening Lisa with a knife. This is the point of the ending choice. The whole game just ends up here, instead of being over the course of the game, but I choose to rescue my friends, cutting people free and untying. Dennis seems to take personal umbrage with us not devoting ourselves to Citra's cause and lunges at Jason, but Citra takes the knife. Jason lays the dying woman down, apologizing to her, and Dennis has a mental breakdown over his mistake. Jason has a wee speech and the credits roll. That's right, we're finally at the end, and I need to talk to you about how this ending works and the theming around it. So first off, your other option is to murder all your friends you've been trying to rescue, including your only remaining brother. Who do you do this for? Well, the sister of a maniac who killed your brother and a group of people who love you for the chaos and murder you leave in your wake. You are then drugged, wake up in another sexual assault by Citra, and she kills you during the assault. This woman seems to only really be interested in you because she loves violence. Does she read about Pol Pot, Pinochet, and Hitler like it's a Mills and Boon novel? In case people in my audience don't get that, basically Mills and Boon was the 50 Shades, but for old people. So, kind of imagine your grandma getting off to it. This is where I have to sum up what the two endings boil down to. You are given the option between two people. One that the game themes, how evil is this woman who might criticize your serial killer ways? And the other one who is, I will worship you and see your violence as the reason for your perfection. This messaging is potentially to blame for a lot of young men's views on what they expect from women and prospective relationships, as this was a seminal piece of media that they still go on about. It reinforces a toxic message of women's role in the man's story. Also, with Hoyt's business empire, it's just going to become owned by someone else with less experience and more bloodthirst. Perhaps someone who will seek vengeance, but also think less and less of letting people who are captured even come close to an escape. The framework isn't gone, it's just the guy at the top, and the power vacuum is only going to bring out the worst people. It's honestly something that I have to say lines up with the worst main problem for this title, that is it continuing after the defeat of Vars, especially in the way that it does. When it feels like when somebody screwed up telling a joke 3 times, but they really want to see it finished, and everyone else is bored or awkward. That's it, that's how it feels. Something that, spoilers for Far Cry 6, they didn't even stick to. Now's a good time to bring back our friends who were trying to avoid the spoilers and to share my views on the story in general, but I'm going to honestly try and not spoil anything. Again, I'm really going to try, okay? To pull the scab off the wound quickly, videos like this one are wrong. Painfully wrong. The plot of this game is mid at best. It didn't add anything to an already saturated pool of open-world shooters, while bringing nothing new to the table and even removing survival elements from Far Cry 2. This title does not have a villain that came close to saying anything like Far Cry 5, and I'm not even saying that really said anything in the final version, that is to stay in this franchise, or to look at its contemporaries that arrived a couple of years prior. Well, Kaiser and Lanius in Fallout New Vegas, the FBI in Red Dead Redemption, Lucian in Fable, where someone is wealthier or in a structurally powerful position like that, or the form of a religious leader, police, etc., who will use their positions to take advantage of people who look up to them. This title instead relies on the savagery of those with non-Western beliefs or tradition, or selling an, modern pirates are scary everywhere, like the movie Captain Phillips, and the cultural ideas at the time of release, and now that seem to ignore the actions of the colonialist powers reaping the benefits of the underprivileged world, but drum up fear about those locations when they try to push back and exist. Far Cry 3, centering its entire story on Jason and his rich white friends, struggles with the same problems a number of GTA titles and other media where an audience has to sympathise with a bunch of wealthy white dudes who go on to do extraordinarily awful things and think, "Aww, you deserve people not to criticise you or even be concerned about the violent outbursts of this behaviour." One fine example being the reaction to Skylar White in Breaking Bad. It's not to say that games like this cause school shooters, but the idea that every white boy is entitled to be the hero of their own story, and usually at the expense of people who are not men or not white or not heterosexual or not Western or not Christian or all of those and some other categories, and they are allowed to do something truly remarkable for their victory through tremendous acts of violence, which is not against an occupying force or in the face of fascistic rule like, say, Wolfenstein. It's just a bit gross, and it can play into a hero complex that a lot of young people can develop. This hero complex can drive them to be prone to the messaging of the likes of Matt Walsh, Tim Pool.
All the language you're using is pretty loaded.
Well, you keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while exacerbate or...
You keep using adjectives to describe things. And Ben Shapiro and be driven to do something about it. With that in mind, and with how many shooters and the like seem to look at their anger against minorities, political opponents, etc., and see a violence that is seen as the true path of the warrior, or whatever, it just feels like this game could have had more discussions around this, and should have more conversations that look at its potential effect. The conversations could have been more interesting, at least by focusing on the messed up grey areas or where these complexes take you, like the devastation and regrets of Dennis, instead of having sexual slavery just thrown about like edgy flavor text in an early Falling in Reverse track that's aged like milkshake in a hot car. I'm going to go through a couple of the characters in broad strokes, so there won't be any story beats, but my impressions of them from the game. So, starting out with, we may as well go in with our poster boy Vas. As a character, he is one of the most self-indulgent weirdos, and I legitimately find him annoying. Not scary, not interesting to study, like painstakingly irritating. He waxes philosophically about things he does not understand, and the game pretends like these rants are deep, but really, they aren't. His constant yammering is worse than Forspoken, and this is exemplified by the fact that the beginning of most, if not all, of his speeches are him murmuring. You don't have a clue what he's on about. You need subtitles, and then out of nowhere he acts like he knows everything, and like you told him to kill himself in front of his family. It's irritating, it's repetitive, and badly put together. Secondly, Jason, our player character, well, I hate this guy. 90% of his dialogue is like that of Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back, claiming he has a big destiny, but complaining about it every step of the way. And the third of our characters is Hoyt, because we might as well do the big trio. He's a horrible, annoying mix between Vas and Scarface, and finds the worst parts of both characters, in a way that just has no compelling features, not even in a good villain way. He's just there. Looking at the game functionally, I hope you like the same 4 animations for healing, as that's all you're going to get. You will see 1,000 times that will become boring to the point of hysteria. Crash your car. That's just a dislocated thumb. It's not the only issue with the animation and visuals in this game, as the side quests have terrible animation and voice acting compared to the main quest. This is an issue in my eyes because I have seen it constantly in Ubisoft and other titles, where the development is clearly in the direction of doing a main story that would be paced better as a linear campaign experience, but because people expect a certain amount of open world for a certain cost, we get sparse open worlds that have distinctly lower effort side quests. That's a really difficult sentence to say, when it really doesn't add anything and potentially is detrimental to the experience as a whole. This detriment also comes in the form of trying to explore, and as I said in the spoiler part, you can hit many glitches where your crafted items just delete, or trying to go from mission to mission, a tiger just spawns to maul you, or a car hits you out of nowhere. From my experience, grenades have such poor physics that they limit your opportunities for nuanced combat ideas. The geometry of the towers is so terrible way too often when I try to explore wider regions that make the open world compelling. I just kind of give up, because why the fuck would I care? There are smaller nitpicks that, to me, grow as gripes. I mean, with things like the AK-47 not having the opportunity for attachments, when the model has a scope rail. You can see it. It's right there. The gun noises, although had a good quality based on the date they were recorded, they just sound like the volume was turned up, and having that weird mixing like Hollywood movies nowadays, where dialogue is barely audible and then the guns just sound like they're screaming at you. Speaking of gunfights, though, you, the player, are stuck to minimal ammo reserves, which would be understandable if every enemy wasn't using the ammo reserves of every US state combined, which makes the whole thing ridiculous. I mean, God, who are these guys being funded by? Is this what Israel are doing? Are they're just another puppet government? Who on the pirates' staff is from the IOF? This is not the only ridiculous thing, though. I mean, we have hairline textures that are just absurd, cutscenes that are all motion sickness inducing with the falling that they use, and I even found what seems to be a group of guys worshipping a chair. So if you're into an adventure that is hit and miss plot and has weirdly funny side things inadvertently, yeah, check this out. I mean, if you go into this the same way that I did, buying into all the hype people shared, you will be disappointed. And I hate giving bad news like that. Also, I thought I'd give you a little bit of information. This video is like 14 pages long. What the fuck is up with that? I mean, so yeah, if you have listened to this for 14 pages worth of writing and potentially a bunch of stupid edits that I thought were funny, please subscribe, like the video, find my socials, follow them, find the Patreon if you want to see more of this and hear my stupid behind the scenes stuff, and maybe get new videos that I'll probably put only there and stuff like that. You know, you'll be into a lot of stuff, but supporting the channel is brilliant. Obviously, yeah, just do what you can, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.